Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here today. We're going to take a quick look at Iotx. And just before we do, we usually look at Bitcoin, but I can summarize it in one word, 61,000. That's pretty much all it's done for about 36 hours, plus or minus a few hundred, but it's really just consolidating heavy at support. Now, if you're new to the channel though, just gotta let you know I'm not a financial advisor. This is for educational purposes only, and not just because I have to say so. I love teaching and I love helping people become better traders, which is why I created a trading community. Link in the description below for that. Check that out in your own time, because I get the opportunity to be able to share all my trades with my members, and more importantly, I get to work with them on becoming better traders. So it's a super awesome experience. So if you end up checking that out, just note there's only a limited amount of slots available, of course, just based on demand. I like to have more one-on-one potential. But also note too that the price will be increasing next month as well if I open up more slots in that scenario. So just check that out, of course. But hopefully you do learn a thing or two here today. Now with Iotx, now I hate to say I told you so, right? But 2 days ago when I covered this, when we had nothing but green candles, I told you that it has a history of ramping up and selling off significantly, right? So why don't we just do this here? Let's look at the history first and see how far the previous one sold off. And we're going to want to use that as a kind of a baseline of how much this one might sell off too, right? So we look at this here. Well, we had, three white soldiers, right? Big surprise, fourth red candle, right? So the price comes down, comes all the way down to the lowest point for Fibonacci, right? So it comes down to 236. So it basically lost, what is that, 77% of its initial highest point, okay? Now let's take a look and see what that might look like over here, right? Just as a hypothetical. Again, there's no guarantees in this, but it's kind of working itself out, right? We take the highest point there. We look. We are in the 38 to 50% range right now. That's only 2 days of trading. Do you think there's a likelihood of it coming right back up? Or do you think it might continue to fizzle out and do something very similar to what it did before? I'm more so thinking the latter, just based on the simple fact that most coins have a history of repeating themselves, and there's a self-fulfilling prophecy of just repetitive nature in crypto, which is exactly why Fibonacci makes sense, right? So regardless, just want to throw that out there as kind of a preface, so you know specifically that, I don't want you to fool yourself, not saying you have to sell your bag, but unless you plan to, dollar cost average or perhaps hold on for much longer, you may want to consider trimming your position. And heaven forbid you got greedy and you haven't sold yet. I wouldn't say shame on you, but that's kind of how it goes, right? Anyways, so let's learn from our mistakes if that is the case, and let's see what kind of opportunities we have here. So prices both moving averages, no worries there. Prices coming back down under 70, I like that. I'd prefer it to be under 70, but what's important is to note when it comes down to 50, is it going to hold and bounce off of 50 as a support level, right? We need to understand that. Because if you look back here, it held on to the 50, but it eventually sold off. Now, granted, September 7th, that was the El Salvador candle, so it makes sense as to why it lost the support level of 50. But it did actually, in fact, hold above 50 on the support beforehand, right? So pending no world events, we may not see that second leg down, and we might actually see the price continue within the current range that it's in right now. Okay. In fact, let's pull that back up, because I want to make sure we got the right expectations here. If you look at what it was doing, it was consolidating nicely between 382 and 50, right? So between 38 and 50% of the original increase, we have the price consolidating. It went to this lower leg down because of the El Salvador candle, right? September 7th was a bad day for everyone. Now, pending, again, we don't have that happen, there is a strong likelihood based on that sentiment that we could see the price action continue and stay in this range here and eventually leg up. I say eventually because you should not expect the price to bounce back anytime soon. Right? This is that same analogy I use every single time. You fall down a flight of stairs, you're going to be in a wheelchair, you're going to be crutches, you might break your neck. It's going to take a long time to recover. You're going to have to learn to walk again. That's the same thing with Iotx right now. It's learning to walk again. It's learning to kind of get its legs back, and it's not going to happen overnight. You need time to heal. This coin is wounded. All right. Anyways, enough analogies, but you get what I'm saying. Let's go ahead and take a look at the other stuff too. So a 4-hour chart, again, kind of consolidating right within that range. We're above both moving averages, so we might want to see what happens here in the next few days. I would say probably within the next week, how this price action responds to the moving averages. And then also note too, we have a massive divergence. This is not over yet. We should likely see more continuation to the downside. But good news is we're up over 50 on the RSI on the 4-hour chart. So there is that as well, right? So there's a consolation, but again, nothing to be excited about. Moving on to the 1 hour, let's take a quick peek here. See where we're at. We are well below the cloud. We're going to be under the cloud for some time based on this history here, right? So just note, unless the price is above the cloud, it's not considered a buy signal, right? It broke below the cloud. Wonder if that's considered a sell signal. Yes, the answer is yes, it definitely is. Doesn't mean you got to sell your position, right? But you just got to be realistic, the fact that it's going to be here for a while. That's my speculation. Now moving on to TD sequential, nothing to note there. We got a bunch of resets followed by a period of 9. So again, you can just see it keeps legging down, That's very standard, just really common behavior here for Iotx. So outside of that, let's go to the best case scenario, right? Because that's why you're here. You want a prediction. You want some, some fancy prediction. Sorry, I'm being a little sarcastic. I apologize. The bottom line here with the prediction is very straightforward. Will it hit 34 cents, which is, again, a best case scenario, if it were to repeat the same exact action as it did previously? Well, yeah, it could totally hit that. But here's the thing. We got to understand how long it's going to take to get there, right? So let's just, again, take a look at the history. And it has the same history every single time. The first increase was April 30th to August 10th. So in my math, what is that? 3 to 4 month range, roughly. And this most recent one took from August 13th upwards of November 2nd. So we're looking about 2.5 months for this recovery to occur, right? So do you realistically think we're going to see a spike and a peak upwards of 35 cents within the next month? Absolutely not. Again, it increased really high. It's going to fall back down. It's going to consolidate. I would say best case scenario by month end, we're still trending sideways and consolidating. And then at one point, maybe in December or January, we might see a spike back up to whatever that next level is, which could only probably more than likely be 23 to 26 cents. Okay. All right, so that's my prediction. I take it or leave it. I'm sorry. I know it's not great, but that's just the realistic way in which it goes. I would not trust anybody that tells you and that's pumping this coin up right now that it's going to turn around tomorrow. It doesn't happen. It's a freak of nature if it does occur, and I wouldn't trust it at all, just based on its history, right? History repeats itself in cryptocurrency. It doesn't have to, but it oftentimes does. So just remember that. All right, so thanks again for joining me here. Hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll keep an eye on this here, of course. If we see any significant movement, I'll cover it again. But thank you so much for your support. And you know who you are, right? My patrons, my community members, pretty much everyone that's contributed to my channel in one way or the other. So I'm just super thankful for you all. I mean, 6 months ago, I would have never guessed we'd be at almost 20,000 members and almost about 120 CryptoCache Premium members too, right? Never would have guessed that. So thank you all so much for your support. Really appreciate you. We'll see you in the next video. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.